What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jaron Ikner back again with Starstruck TV video. This time we are talking about the ever so long awaited 12 years in the making album from one of the most elusive artists in the history of hip hop, Jay Electronica. Now, I will say this off the bat, as I usually do with my videos, that shout out to Rock Nation, because Rock Nation put together a hype train basically out of nowhere, and managed to really gain a lot of interest for this album. It was announced 40 days ago on Jay Electronica's Twitter account, where he said that in 40 days he would drop an album. And those are all the details that we had at this point. And over the last couple of days, we received information about release parties from Tidal, which got canceled due to the coronavirus. That's a different video. Track lists that featured Travis Scott and The Dream that had fans upset, and a lot of red herrings, which is the interesting part about this, because when the album actually finally released a couple hours ago, it turns out that the album is more like a collaboration album between Jay Electronica and his boss JayZ. And with that said, that is probably the biggest surprise of all this, is that this is essentially a JayZ album and a Jay Electronica album. And once again, this goes back to the brilliance of Rock Nation, because I think that by one, keeping JayZ uncredited on this album, it creates an air of surprise and mystery to it. But then two, also putting JayZ on the album increases the value of people wanting to actually listen to it once they find out that he is on the album. I was going to listen to this album regardless whether he was on it or not, but now that he's on it, it's almost like an increase, a boost, like an RPG boost to the album that Jay Electronica desperately needed, because he's operating in a brand new generation with a brand new audience. With that said, let's talk about the album real quick. The production on this album is interesting. Jay Electronica handles most of the production. I think he produces 5 out of the 10 tracks on the joint. And Shiny Suit Theory, which is a song that is 12 years old and was created when they first signed Jay Electronica to Rock Nation, is on the album, which is super interesting, because it's a really tight song, and it's kind of interesting that the song holds up. Even after 12 years, it's still a really cool song. And the production is very interesting. There's producers that include A-Rap Music, Swiss Beats, Hit Boy, Alchemist is on a couple of beats. There's a very brief, very tiny feature from Travis Scott on there. No ID. Like a very, 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 very tiny one. No ID's on there as well. There's a wide range of producers I've never heard of. The last song on the album is actually, I believe, a sample of a rock band whose name I'm not going to even try to pronounce right now, because it was a bunch of consonants. I don't want to mess it up, but it starts with a K, and I might say it later. But anyways, what's always been interesting about Jay Electronica's style is that he tends to go for sample-heavy type music. He's not really like a drum type of dude. Not to say he doesn't rap over drums, but most of his production is more prominent on the choices of samples that he uses, and this album really is no exception. There's some really interesting sounds. I'm not necessarily sure if they all work as well as they should. And to be honest, it kind of feels like, and I mean, maybe it was, that this album had a very rushed feeling to it. It almost kind of felt like JayZ just got frustrated and was like, hey, it's been 13, 12 years, 11 years, whatever, and you still haven't dropped the album. So how about we just go in the studio? I'm going to hop on every single track with you to keep you motivated to get through this album. And that kind of brings me to the next point, is the lyrical tenacity of this album. So JayZ is, he's JayZ. He's one of the greatest rappers of all time. And he is spitting some crazy fire on this album. There's really no exception. Like, he's JayZ. He's just doing his job as JayZ, doing some incredible verses, great wordplay, interesting approaches to these interesting beats. And easily the most exciting thing about this album is the JayZ features, or collaborations, or whatever you want to call them. On the Jay Electronica side, I'm honestly a little bit disappointed. Jay Electronica is actually one of my favorite lyricists in the game. At least he was when he was at his peak. Not to say that he's not anymore, but you know, life. And with a 12-year absence and all the things that are happening in this world and that have happened in this world, and the fact that we know that this album has come out recently, it's probably recorded recently, at least assumingly. Maybe it's not. Maybe a lot of these songs have been recorded over the last 12 years. We actually don't know that. But I'm assuming that most of these songs were recorded the last couple months. He doesn't really have much to say, at least outside of the realm of what I would expect Jay Electronica to say in a song. But I almost feel like there's an obligation to maybe explain himself a little bit and maybe give us some personal insight into what he's been doing the last 12 years and why he hasn't dropped the album. Now, I'm not saying he needs to like make the whole album about that, but there really isn't any type of clues or context or any type of story behind why we are getting this album or what happened in the last 12 years. And when it comes to Jay Electronica's ability to do that, we can. And so it almost kind of feels like he's phoning in some of these lyrics. Now, with that said, before all the Jay Electronica fans call me a hater, it's still amazing rapping. I'm not saying that the rapping that Jay Electronica is doing on this album is bad. I'm just saying that the content is leaving me a little bit underwhelmed because there's so much I want to know about what the hell has been happening to this man over the last decade, and he doesn't give me enough. And that leads me to my next point. I think that this might be the beginning of a series of projects from Jay Electronica, and it kind of makes sense that this album would feature JayZ in his capacity. It almost acts as like a platform for JayZ, or not JayZ, Jay Electronica to get his name back in the streets, get the buzz going, get some record sales flowing, get some things coming. And it wouldn't surprise me if we got another Jay Electronica album by the end of the year. Maybe even sooner than that. Maybe not. Maybe this is the only Jay Electronica we will ever get, ever. We get one album, we finally got it, this is it, maybe he's done. I don't know. But all in all, this album I do think is a must listen, especially for older hip hop heads, especially if you've been waiting on this album. You should go listen to it. It's needed for sure. There's a lot of lyrics on there that really hit me in ways that I felt that I needed to be hearing this as opposed to what the current soundscape of what hip hop is right now. I'm always open to JayZ verses right now because JayZ is on some super woke, aware stuff that most of the hip hop isn't on right now. So I'm gonna welcome a whole album from JayZ versus Jay Electronica. It seems that he's a little bit rusty, and I don't want to say that he's out of the game lyrically, but he put JayZ on an album with yourself, and you're not expecting him to outshine you on every single track, then you are going to be wrong. Basically what I'm saying is that if you're going to do an album with JayZ, you better bring your 100% A game. Think about Kanye West and Watch the Throne. I believe to this day, and this might piss off the 3 people who watch these videos, that Kanye West washed JayZ on Watch the Throne. Kanye West does some of his absolute best rapping of his entire career, hands down, on Watch the Throne. Why? Because he's going up against JayZ on every single track. You got to come with your A game. In this situation, it kind of felt like Jay Electronica was just like whatever. Maybe he knew that JayZ was coming in, because you have to think about JayZ. He's always working in his head. He probably has hundreds of verses ready to go. So, but Jay Electronica maybe not so much, and maybe Jay Electronica knew that, and maybe he just felt like this would be a good way to get his name back in the streets, which is why I think we might get another album from him. Maybe not. Who knows? But all in all, this album is worth the listen. So go check it out. It's out now. I might post a link in the comment section. But make sure you like, subscribe, follow, and do all the stuff that we do on these pages. And we'll be back again with more videos. And make sure you check out our new blog. We have a new blog called thecreator.com. There's a link down there. Go click on it. We post news stories, music videos, reviews, all kinds of other stuff. Also, I have another YouTube channel. If you like looking at my face and hearing me talk, go check out my new channel called Jaron Ikner. It's my real name. So do that. Love you all. Thanks for watching Star Trek TV. We out. Woo.